The Galactic Council's emergency session had been called for the first time in 3 millennia. Representatives from 47 different species sat in stunned silence as the holographic displays showed the same devastating reality. Entire star systems going dark, trade routes collapsing, and proud civilizations that had stood for eons crumbling within hours. Ambassador HFY of the Vorthan Empire leaned forward, her 6 eyes blazing with fury. How is this possible? Our intelligence networks, our military might, our economic strangleholds, all meaningless in a single night? The answer sat quietly in the defendant's chair at the center of the vast chamber. Agent Sarah Chen, unremarkable by human standards, average height, brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail, wearing the standard-issue gray jumpsuit of a prisoner, looked more like a clerk than the architect of the greatest political upheaval in galactic history. "The human will explain," demanded High Arbiter Klon, his crystalline form pulsing with agitated light patterns. What were these 3 words that brought down governments that have ruled for thousands of your human years? Sarah raised her head slowly, meeting the gaze of dozens of alien representatives with calm brown eyes. "The words were simple," she said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. "I told them the truth." "What truth?" screeched Ambassador Yilthara, her feathered crest bristling with indignation. "What could possibly— You are slaves." The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats, while others began rapid consultations with their advisors through neural links and quantum communicators. Sarah continued, her voice steady and matter-of-fact. "For the past 18 months, I've been working undercover in various positions across your empires. Maintenance worker on Kepler Station, communications technician in the Zephyrian fleet, agricultural processor on the farming worlds of Tau Ceti, always listening, always watching." High Arbiter Klon's form flickered with confused patterns. "Those are menial positions. How could a simple laborer—" "That's exactly why it worked," Sarah interrupted. "You see, humans have this concept called class consciousness. We understand what it means to be exploited because we've lived it. We know what it looks like when the powerful few benefit from the labor of the many, and what I discovered across your 47 empires was the same pattern, repeated endlessly." She stood up slowly, ignoring the weapons that immediately trained on her. "Every single one of your civilizations operates on the same principle. A ruling class that claims divine right, or superior genetics, or ancient privilege, supported by a massive underclass that does all the actual work. The Vorthan nobles who never dirty their hands while their lesser castes mine the dilithium. The crystalline hierarchy where the pure forms make all decisions while the flawed variants maintain your cities. The Zephyrian houses where bloodline determines everything while the houseless serve without question." Ambassador HFY's voice cracked with rage. "These are natural orders, sacred traditions. The strong must lead the weak." "See, that's what I thought you'd say," Sarah replied with what might have been a smile. "Which is why I didn't try to convince your ruling classes. I talked to the workers instead." The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Sarah waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "I spoke to the Vorthan miners who'd never seen the surface of their own homeworld. I showed them recordings of human mining operations, where the workers own shares in the companies, where safety regulations are enforced, where children of miners can become engineers or doctors or anything they choose. I talked to the Zephyrian maintenance crews and explained the concept of labor unions, of collective bargaining, of workers having a voice in their own governance." "Impossible," hissed Representative Morgak. "Our subjects are content. They know their place in the natural order." "Are they?" Sarah asked. "Because when I whispered those 3 words, 'You are slaves,' something interesting happened. They didn't disagree. They didn't seem surprised. They just woke up." The holographic displays around the chamber began showing new footage. Vorthan mining facilities where the workers had simply walked away from their posts. Zephyrian shipyards where the maintenance crews had locked out their supervisors. Crystal cities where the flawed variants had begun dismantling the infrastructure that supported their pure masters. "No violence," Sarah observed, watching the screens. "No dramatic revolution. They just stopped. Stopped mining your dilithium. Stopped maintaining your ships. Stopped growing your food. Stopped pretending that your systems were legitimate." High Arbiter Klon's form pulsed rapidly with distress patterns. But how can they survive without the guidance of their betters? How can they organize themselves? How can they— The same way humans did, Sarah said quietly. Through cooperation, through democracy, through the radical idea that maybe, just maybe, the people who do the work should have a say in how things are run. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Empires that had stood for millennia, that had seemed unshakable in their power and authority, had been brought down not by fleets of warships or devastating weapons, but by the simple recognition that their foundation, the willing compliance of the oppressed, was not as solid as they had believed. "What happens now?" asked Ambassador Yilthara, her voice small and uncertain. Sarah shrugged. "Now you learn to negotiate with equals instead of commanding subjects. You learn to earn legitimacy instead of claiming it by birthright. You adapt to a galaxy where power comes from consent rather than coercion." She paused, meeting the gaze of each representative in turn. "Or you become as extinct as the dinosaurs." As the chamber erupted in panicked deliberations, Sarah Chen sat back down in her chair and waited. She had done what humans did best. She had planted an idea. And ideas, once seeded in fertile minds, grew faster than empires could move to stop them. The age of unquestioned authority was over. The age of earned leadership had begun. And it had all started with 3 simple words: